everybody, it's Sophie and Marco. Dish out on the movies.
This
Yes,
is Marco.
this is what we're doing. We're reviewing the Avengers Endgame. Of course, we're picking up from the last movie, Infinity War. 50% of the world's population has turned to dust, and those who remain are devastated, depressed, and angry. Iron Man is lost in space with Mean Girl part cyborg Nebula, and he's about to die because there's only a tiny bit of food left. He has been leaving a recorded captain's log on his helmet, and it looks like it's the final one. Is he and Cyborg Girl done for?
Cyborg alien girl.
Thor and some of the others find Thanos, who's not living happily or well, and he's all alone. I guess this is a non-spoiler review now, so let me say no one is happy after this meetup, no matter what happens. 5 years later, Ant-Man, who's been stuck because his partner's turned to dust, gets unstuck by a rat accidentally knocking into a switch. This is about the only kind of spoiler you're going to get in this review. So here's Ant-Man, who despite his personal loss has a sense of humor and an attitude of what can we do to fix things and bring these people back. So I could go through the rest of the characters, but they're all depressed and feeling sorry for themselves, which is weird.
Technically, that's not true. Not all of them. So I
Well,
won't say anything else.
aren't superheroes made of sterner stuff than this? Thanks to the positive attitude and humor of Ant-Man, who contacts Black Widow and Captain America, the ball gets rolling in turning things around. He has a general idea of how to do it, but not the intellectual physics knowledge. What he needs is a more intellectual problem solver, one who's a super genius and invents things. Does that mean Iron Man was saved? We shall see. The rest of the movie is gathering who's left, working on a time travel plan to procure all the stones before Thanos gets them, and returning everyone to their full figured persona. And then the final battle and epilogue. Since this is a final get together of all these characters as a team, that gathering part took quite a while, longer than anything else that went on in the movie. Go ahead, Marco, take it away.
I went into this movie with the lowest expectations possible, of course, because of what was it, Safi? What was it called? Infinity War.
Oh,
Did you go into it with low expectations too, or did you have any hope?
I didn't have any expectations actually. I didn't see
Okay.
any of the trailers or anything.
I saw almost every single trailer, partly because I wanted to compare like what the leaked stuff in the trailers chose to show, and actually, the trailers show a lot more than the leaks did. Like I watched the leaks in full, and they did not affect anything in the movie at all for me.
That's good.
And well, it shows that the trailers though they showed a lot more, and nobody complained about the trailers. All they did was complain about these little blurry leaks you couldn't barely see or hear. I didn't even understand what was being said. And so when I saw this movie first, I saw it in 3D, and the first thing I noticed was the 3D was really cool. This is probably the best 3D movie I've ever seen in theaters. And I've seen quite a few. I saw Fright Night in 3D, Spy Kids 3, Monsters vs. Aliens, quite a few. And this movie is broken up, in my opinion, in three distinct sections. And it takes a lot of stuff from the first Avengers by Joss Whedon. I appreciated that, but at the same time, I felt like they were really uh, taking too much. Almost like they didn't have. They didn't know. I don't know how to explain it. They really burnt out the Russo brothers. They have fizzled out from Winter Soldier the masterpiece to this. This is not their worst film, but it's trash compared to Civil War and especially Winter Soldier. And the reason that is because a lot of the choices in this movie weren't just bad, they were horrible in terms of character, in terms of choosing to put certain characters in the movie even though they shouldn't be in there at all, in terms of who kills the bad guy, in terms of the ending, in terms of who dies. Every choice almost for this movie I feel is the wrong choice. And I knew that was going to happen. I knew that this movie would be more divisive because this is a definitive conclusion to the past 10 years. And there's going to be so many different people who are like, no, I wanted this to happen, or I wanted this to happen. And I feel like there would have been an easy way to please everyone, but they didn't do it. And so I enjoyed this movie quite a bit the first time I saw it, but then as I kept thinking about it, it got worse and worse and worse and worse, and now it's at an all-time low because I've seen it twice, and I never want to watch it again. Honestly, never. Maybe like the first hour, which is in my opinion the best part of the movie, the first hour, but then the rest of the movie, no thanks. What about you, Sophie?
Well, Marco is very picky, and that's because he has a more of a critical eye about how movies are made, because that's what he wants to do. But overall I liked the Endgame because it was entertaining, but there were a few things that I disagreed with completely. But since this is a non-spoiler review, I can't say which things I didn't like.
We'll talk all about it in the spoiler discussion, believe me.
Some of the music was not good.
Yeah, the music was terrible.
And I say, where is Hans Zimmer, the composer, when you need him?
No, that's not.
I think that would have been neat.
Because here's the thing, the music in Infinity War is probably, in my opinion, the best music in the entire Marvel catalog. And the music in this movie, most of it is either old 70s rock music played for transition in scenes, or it's recycled material from Infinity War that isn't as effective or done right, so you have that.
And I'm sorry to say that I don't think the addition of Captain Marvel shouldn't have been necessary. But however, since they made her a movie that came out before this, she had to be included because it included everybody.
Yeah, we all know why she got a movie too.
I don't think she has any depth, and her inclusion in the movie is like drinking a cup of coffee to wake you up, but it doesn't last. And I also call it a multiple section movie. I call it a 4-section movie. The state of the world and the people in it, getting the stones, the final battle, and aftermath epilogue.
Oh yeah, I forgot the epilogue. I would count the epilogue as another part too. So 4 parts.
So do you want to go ahead and give it the food review, or?
No, I just discuss a little more. Did you agree that the music in Infinity War was better at least?
Truthfully, I don't remember the music in Infinity War.
That's unforgivable, Sophie.
The only music I remember is the music of Black Panther. All of it.
What about the
really
jokes?
Enjoyed.
The jokes. They had some. I saw this movie twice, and the first time, all the jokes at the beginning, no one laughed at them. And then all the jokes from then on, at a certain point, everyone was laughing. And so it felt to me very inappropriate that they had all these jokes in this time where they're depressed and it's the aftermath of all the stuff that happened in Infinity War. It was so inappropriate to have all these jokes, especially the first two scenes. They cut immediately from one scene to Nebula and Iron Man on a ship with this rock music, and he's making jokes. And why is he making jokes after the stuff that happened in Infinity War happened? Just very strange. It just.
Well, I think it's their reaction
Ugh.
to everything that's happened that sometimes people, they're so much in shock that they don't act what you would call appropriately.
But he was devastated after he landed on Earth. And then in the ship in space, he's like, yeah, I'm just a normal me. So that didn't make any sense to me.
Well, like I said, there were some things I didn't agree with, but I appreciated the humor, actually. Not to say I didn't laugh at everything, because I'm pretty particular, but I felt it was good that one thing, that the characters don't take themselves too seriously, or they end up looking fake, like one of them especially.
Yeah.
And two, I think it's good in anything I watch, doesn't matter what it is, somehow, well, I don't know about a Holocaust movie, that might be where it wouldn't be good at all, but most everything I see, I'd rather have a little, just a sprinkling, like a
yeah, but you get, this is Marvel, you get sprinklings of comedy every second that you watch the movie. You don't need to constantly have comedy in an entire movie after all this stuff happened. It's sick, because a lot of people point out the Marvel Universe, all they do is just make jokes. Everything's a joke. There's nothing that they take seriously. And that's true for this movie and the first act. It's almost like nothing happened, and but stuff happened. But when it's convenient to have a funny joke, they immediately put the joke in there, even though the situations don't call for jokes at all. And so I didn't like that at all. It really pissed me off. And is there anything else? Oh, agendas. I would say that this movie is about 15% agenda shit. And it really sours the taste of this movie towards the end, because of the agenda stuff being more towards the end. So you're left after watching the movie just thinking about the agenda stuff and not even thinking about all the different stuff at the end. Very important stuff too.
Yeah, I guess putting in agendas, and you probably wonder, what does that mean? Well, I don't know if I should really go into it, but changing characters into different sexes and things like that in order to fulfill some kind of agenda, I guess that would be an agenda item. But it's kind of like, let's say you have, you have a dessert and you want to put whipped cream on it, and you have Cool Whip, which can be pretty good, the real good kind, or you have real whipped cream. Only difference is you have to whip it up with sugar and vanilla, right? So which would you choose? Which would taste the best? Would it be the real whipped cream with the sugar and the vanilla? Or would it be Cool Whip? So that, to me, the agenda is kind of like Cool Whip. So I know that sounds ridiculous, but since our reviews are oriented toward food, that's why I'm saying this. Okay?
It's exactly like if you're not on a diet yet you're eating
drinking beer.
No.
Eating chocolate.
No, if you're not on a diet.
Oh.
And you're drinking no sugar drinks.
Oh.
That's what agendas are. But the thing is that people who insert agendas into movies, they don't care about characters, they don't care about stories, they don't care about the effect of different events happening, like who's a bad guy, who's a good guy, what happens, who dies. They don't care about that stuff. All they care about is inserting characters of a certain race or sex or sexual orientation into the story so that, quote, people can be represented. And representation is bullshit, number one. And number two, this movie has some of the worst agendas ever in Marvel history, and it's because it's a result of the next phase being completely feminized and being completely not Marvel really anymore, not based around characters, just based around agendas. That's what we got at the end of this movie. Almost every single, and spoiler alert, almost every single male character is set up to be replaced or replaced by a female or a person of a different race than white. And that was the goal of this movie, was to M1 in the MCU for the past 10 years. Number 2, start the next phase. And the next phase is just going to be agenda stuff, and we're not going to be a part of it unless the movies have nothing to do with agendas and they're good, like Guardians of the Galaxy 3. So, oh yeah, what did you think of Thanos in this movie? I hated Thanos. I thought he was a weak character. He was even worse than Infinity War because he hardly got anything to do, and he was stuff with power scaling again because this movie followed Infinity War. There were so many problems with powers not being equal to what they should be, and then powers being stronger. What about you, Safi?
Well, in remembering that this is a non-spoiler review, at the at the beginning of the movie, well, kind of not quite at the beginning, but into it, when he's all alone and everything around him, it looks like he's living off grid, and the place where he lives, he's not living in a beautiful castle or a palace, or he's living in like a crappy cabin with it, and outside it looks crappy out, like it's been a war zone, and I think, and I'm a little shocked, and he's all alone because the dummy, his mechanized cyborg daughter, is up in space with Iron Man, and his other daughter, remember, didn't he kill her? Or I know she's dead, or whatever you want to call it. Because
what does that have to do with anything?
Well, I mean, he's all alone, so everything that he did, oh wow, he got rid of 50% of the people, so he could end up in a cabin, a crappy cabin, all by himself. What kind of life is that?
That came actually from the comics, because in the comics, which are superior to this movie, by the way, Thanos helps the Avengers go after Nebula after she takes the gauntlet away from him, and then they allow Thanos to go free. And so what Thanos does is he becomes a farmer.
Oh my God!
So he's just farming crops, and he's living off the land, and because he helped them.
Well, he wasn't planning on helping anybody.
He got a change of heart, and this one, I hated Thanos a lot. There were also missed opportunities in this movie. 3 very distinct missed opportunities that I will talk about. No, 4. 4 distinct missed opportunities.
Okay, well, I think we should not say anything else and talk about our food review of the movie. So, Marco gave me the idea, because I was like, I've been reading the New Yorker magazine, and They talk about all these new restaurant openings because I haven't eaten anything really good in a long time, and I'm having a problem with that. And so, anyway, he told me to split the movie up into parts, which I did, and I already talked about that. I put it into 4 parts, and that's how I looked at it in order to give it a food comparison review. Okay, I just wanted to give Marco credit for that.
So that's what you were talking about.
No, actually not.
Oh.
So I'm giving the movie a multi-course meal. You know, where like you have first course, second course, third course, you know, that kind of thing. So anyway, the state of the world, which is the first course, was like a broccoli cheddar soup that is a little thick but tastes good. The gathering of the stones was like cooked green beans, which depending on how they're cooked can be good or just barely passable. Which it was quick and, well, I just won't say anything else. The battle is the entree, a pot roast with mashed potatoes that tastes good and is gone before you know it because you liked it so much. But it was quick, very, very quick. And the aftermath and epilogue are like a dessert. Maybe a nice slice of apple pie from the store, not one that you home make, but the one from the store where the crust is not good because it tastes artificial, but the filling tastes good and is a lot better. So that is my food review of this movie. I told you it's a multi-course meal, and the way I reviewed it was like some of the parts of the movie were too short. I won't say which because this is a non-spoiler review. And when I say, like for the dessert, for example, I'll just say, remember I said that it's like a store-bought apple pie? At least at Kroger anyway. Sorry, Kroger. The crust, their pie crust, don't taste good. They taste artificial, and they have a bad flavor. Okay, I make a butter crust, homemade butter crust. It tastes really good, but the pie filling is good. So that means that the aftermath and the epilogue have some issues that I disagreed with. Okay, so that's what I mean by I've split the movie into parts like Marco suggested to help me review it. Okay? So go ahead, Marco.
Well, since I rated this movie before doing the review, I didn't think I just did 3 parts because I wanted to kind of structure it after the first Iron Man movie. If you recall, if you watched that review, I rated Iron Man with 3 dishes and a full meal, an appetizer, an entree, and dessert. I did the same thing with this movie since it kind of ends the MCU for the last 10 years. I would, quote unquote, by the way, I would give the appetizer for this movie, as I said before, is the best part. I give the appetizer a plate of gooey potato skins with lots of bacon on top, no fat. And
Bacon is fat.
What?
Bacon is fat.
I mean like fat from bacon.
Oh, okay. You mean extra grease.
No, extra fat.
Okay, whatever. Oh, okay, yeah, I know what you mean now. Okay.
Guys, we got a lunatic reviewing with us. So I get and the reason why I give potato skins with sour cream is because it felt like the gathering of different people. It felt like each one of them had their own cool story about what's happened to them, and it almost mirrored the first Avengers movie, where all the Avengers have to be recruited, such as Black Widow. She goes off and she recruits the Hulk, and Nick Fury goes and recruits Iron Man and stuff like that. That's exactly what this movie reminded me of. That's what I mean by with the Russos taking a little bit too much. It's almost like the Russos did not know what to do, and they just said, F it, we'll just do this. And I think this part was the most successful, the appetizer, which is unfortunate because now we have two shitty courses and a drink to go along with it. So the entree for this movie, I did not care for at all. The second act of the movie is the worst part, even worse than all the agenda stuff. Because at least when you're watching the agenda stuff, you know the movie's going to be over soon. With this, you have to sit through it and sit through it. And there's moments and they drag on and on. And so I give this movie, potato soup. And not just any old potato soup, gross, rotten potato soup that has no potato pieces in it, and it's too salty, and you're forced to eat it, and it just feels like you're taking 1,000 years to eat it, taking 1,000 years to review it too, to emphasize that point of this dreadful expired potato soup. And then it's not that bad, by the way. It's just bad in comparison to what it could have been, which is on par for the course with dessert. And for dessert, I give this movie a little slice, a skinny slice of chocolate cake with chocolate fudge icing with one or two scoops of what's the worst ice cream, Sophie? What's the oh yeah, never mind, because we talked about agendas. I'm gonna say organic soy ice cream. There you go. And soy, exactly. So
well, some people have to have that because they're allergic.
Well, okay, whatever. That doesn't matter. I give it a piece of chocolate cake. That represents the final act, which is the battle. And then the ice cream, the organic soy ice cream, represents the agenda stuff in the end. And I'd just rather not even eat that awful ice cream. And then for the drink, to represent the insufferable, disgusting, pitiful, abysmal, irritating, unnecessary shoehorn Captain Marvel, I give her a glass of flat Mountain Dew. And I won't talk about the meaning behind that, but Mountain Dew is one of my least favorite sodas, regular Mountain Dew, and it's flat too. So that makes it even worse. And you don't even need it. Why would you want to drink a flat soda? It's just empty calories. It's not even carbonated. So there you go.
Okay. Well, we will be coming back with a spoiler review, which I'm not really sure how many spoilers really do you want to listen to.
But we're going to have a spoiler discussion, Sophie. People have already seen the movie. They want to hear a discussion.
Well, whatever. So, we'll see you soon. Bye, everybody.
Goodbye, everybody.